Well, in just a few minutes, we're going to, I'm going to go through, you all are about postage stamp size on my screen, one by one, and I'll ask you to just introduce yourself, and if you're representing an organization, mention the name of the organization. And if you are new tonight and this is your first coalition meeting, just mention how you heard about the DD Coalition. And we'll get started in 1 minute on those introductions.
Unmute. Hi, can I just put in an extra point?
Is that Sandy?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Sandy Throfall. I was at the 9th Avenue Terminal today, and it was heaven, absolute heaven. There were maybe 20 people there. So I asked them when I was in the market, well, how many people did you get here yesterday? Oh, about 3,000.
Wow.
So that's my gem for the day.
That's great. Well, now with that, let's get started. My name is Jenny Gerard. I'm one of 3 of the Agenda Committee who are, as this threesome, leading you in our last meeting of the evening. But you'll notice at the end of our agenda, we'll be electing the next Agenda Committee. I would just say, please be aware that this meeting is recorded and the meeting will be available on our website. And you, on the top of the agenda, you see our where you can find everything about the DD Coalition, and more is coming, and it will be posted there. So the meeting, as you know, we will I encourage everybody to stay on mute so we don't hear your dog or your whatever alarm clock or telephone ringing, but raise your hand if you'd like to be recognized. Feel free to use the chat if you have questions, and we'll get started. So, when I call your name, you'll need to unmute yourself to introduce yourself. So let's start. I'm going to ask my fellow Agenda Committee members to start with their introductions, and then I will go around. So David, please start.
Yes, thank you, Jenny. David Wofford, Rotary Nature Center Friends, and also Agenda Committee member, outgoing.
Adrian.
Hi, everybody. Adrian Cotter. I am on the Agenda Committee and represent Community for Lake Merritt.
Colette.
Colette Lucas Conwell. I'm with East Bay Rowing Club. Virginia Rowe was the one who introduced me, and we will be having Stephanie McFadden also joining later on, but she wasn't able to join tonight, so I'm here in her place.
And James Van.
James Van, and early member of the DD Coalition, and also a member of the Coalition of Advocates for Lake Merritt, COM.
Great. And Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry Fashing. I am the acting Watershed and Stormwater Management Division manager and the DD Bond manager. I'm filling in for Kristen while she's out.
And in a moment, you're going to hear where Kristen is. We'll just go through the introductions and then turn to Mike to tell us about Kristen, who is not here tonight. Tony, your turn.
Tony Bald, science teacher at St. Paul's Episcopal School, Rotary Nature Center Friends, and Lake Merritt Institute.
And Myra.
citizen. Myra Redmond, interested citizen.
Bob Redmond, Community Action Committee of the Essex Condo.
Great. Sam.
Sam Bird, I'm a resident of the Essex on Lake Merritt.
Bill.
Bill Threlfall, Waterfront Action.
And Katie.
Katie Noonan, Rotary Nature Center Friends and Lake Merritt Institute.
And Rick.
Rick Rickard, Bike East Bay and East Bay Regional Park District.
John.
Notwithstanding what this screen says, I am not Linda Stevens. That's my wife, and I haven't figured out how to get my name on this thing. But anyway, my name is John Bowers, and I'm with the Lake Merritt Institute.
Mandolin.
Hi, good evening. Mandolin, Kadera Redmond with the Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation, and I'm here in support of the admin. So if you need technical support, I am your lady.
Sandy. You need to unmute yourself, Sandy. Sandy, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, hey, how's that?
Good.
Waterfront Action.
Okay, that was Sandy Threlfall. Jennifer.
Good evening, everyone. This Jennifer Stern with City of Oakland, Oakland Public Works, Watershed Stormwater Management Division, and I'm here to give a quick update tonight about the Lake Merritt interpretive signs.
Gilbert.
Hi, Gilbert Gong, Director at the Lincoln Square Recreation Center in Oakland, Chinatown.
Rebecca. Rebecca, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I couldn't unmute due through the participants list for some reason. Anyway, my name is Rebecca Dar, and I am a capital improvements project coordinator manager, and have four projects that are funded by Measure DD, and we'll be chiming in with Mike this evening on some of his PowerPoint presentation about the projects I'm working on.
Great. Brett, your turn.
Hey, I'm Brett Peterson, just here as a concerned citizen kind of thing. First time here, just want to learn more about how this committee works.
Terrific. Now, Mike, it's your turn. Tell us who you are and also tell us about Kristen.
All right. I'm Mike Perlmutter with the City of Oakland Watershed and Stormwater Management Division. I help support this effort, and I work with Adrian and Mandolin and also the Agenda Committee to just help with the Measure DD Coalition. I work for Terry and I work with Jen, and I'll share my screen for a sec and I'll show you what's happening with Kristen. Let's see. Oops. Let's see.
Oh, Ariana Murray, Carolina Angstead.
Yeah, so Kristen, as some of you know, is on maternity leave. And that's why Terry and I and many others are filling in. So Kristen is busy with a new little one born just a few days ago. So I'm sure she would, she said to share the news, and as far as I've heard, everyone is doing well.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for your introductions. I assume all of you have seen the agenda. We'll have a slight modification. As Rebecca said, she will be making her comments in the section in which the DD program manager report, which will be she'll supplement what Mike has to say. Are there any other changes or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll zoom ahead with those. Review of the minutes from the last meeting. James, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Just one correction on the minutes. At the list of participants, the minutes has a parenthetical following stating the coalition has no membership. That's an incorrect statement. The coalition, the authorizing documents for the coalition state that it is an open coalition and anyone who is interested can participate or in effect as a member. So I think that parenthetical ought to say that the coalition has an open membership or anyone interested is a member. Anyone interested in who attends coalition meetings as a member.
Thank you, James. Any other comments? So shall we accept the minutes with James noted, comment noted? Thumbs up or clap or something? Thank you, Sandy. One thumb up. It's a couple of thumbs up. So we accept the minutes. I think that's good. All right, well, let's move on then. Jen has told us that she is going to give us a very quick update on the Lake Merritt signage. You'll remember that, Jen, you give us the background on that and tell us what's new and show us if you can.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. Yes, we, as Jenny was about to say, we came to Measure DD Coalition last summer. I think it was in the summertime when we came in and asked for comments. We had 2 rounds of public comments, and so we're at the point right now where we're nearing completion of the signs, the Lake Merritt interpretive signs. Just to give you a little background if you don't know about this project, it's a Measure DD project, and the purpose of the project is to connect people to the place and the wildlife that live at Lake Merritt and encourage the stewardship of the lake. We have designed 6 signs that are going to be placed around the lake, and we will be approving the final proofs on those designs this month, and then they'll be sent out for fabrication, and then we'll be probably getting them installed in June is what it looks like, most likely. And so I sent an email out last week, and I think most of the folks on this coalition probably received that email with this same update and a link to the final signs. We are still going to make some minor edits, so there are some tiny changes that we're making as we do our last review. And then I had also sent the locations for those signs. So I can share those files quickly. I don't want to take up too much time. And let me just open up. I'll share. Let's see here. So am I allowed to share? Let's see. Looks like I am. Okay, great. Okay, excellent. Just for first thing I'm sharing is the map of the locations. So this is the Rotary Nature Center here. Let me know, Jenny, if this is large enough. Is it?
I can see that there's a lake there, and I see some blue dots. Are the blue dots where you are talking about signage?
That's right. Yeah, so you're all familiar with, yeah, Lakeside Park here. So there's 3 that are near the Rotary Nature Center. We have another sign here in Snow Park, right along the roadway there. And then a 5th sign is here by the Cameron Stanford House. And then the 6th, the last sign is over here, right along the lake, but across from Pine Knoll Park. So the ones that are by the Rotary Nature Center are the hotspot for birds, the Keep Wildlife Wild, and let's see what is this one here? Yeah, it's 1, 2, and 3 for, yeah, 1, 2, and 3. The Lake Merritt America's First Wildlife Refuge is also located over here by the Rotary Nature Center. So we took everybody's input in for locations, and I walked the lake with our facilities folks to make sure these are appropriate places for signs. And so this is the locations that we've come up with. And again, we're looking at installation in June. And then I'll just go through a quick, I have the signs here. These are going to be really small, but I'll try to, this is the first sign, hotspot for birds. And you probably, yeah, I won't even be able to read the text, but that's okay. I'll just give you a quick snapshot of it. And then we'll go to the second one. Keep wildlife wild. So this has a focus on not feeding the birds and picking up trash. We have a nice little bubble here with the Canada goose talking about the fact that there's about 100 resident Canada goose, but then in May and June, we see a big rise. And so there's a little information about that there and why they're here. And the third sign is the Tidal Lagoon sign here. Actually,
how big are these signs, Jenny? And how
they
are they mounted?
They are 6 feet long, 2 feet tall.
Okay.
They'll be at a 45-degree angle, and they are going to be mounted on pedestals. So metal.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, thanks.
Jennifer, I think you said that the third one was about, that this one is over near the channel, and the third one was about Lake Merritt, America's First Wildlife Refuge, right?
You're right. Yeah, I got them mixed up on my screen. This is the third sign that will be near the Rotary Nature Center. This is our history sign here. And then the one that'll be over by Snow Park is this one here that focuses on rain gardens and keeping waterways clean. So we have this graphic that shows how the water running off the roadways goes into these rain gardens and gets treated through the soil filters, and shows all the different layers here of how the water is filtered before it goes into the lake. So that's what this sign is focusing on. And let me see. Okay, so this one, the watershed sign. Let me see exactly where this one is. Okay, this one is by Pine Knoll Park, Lake Merritt watershed. So this is the 5th sign, and has a nice illustration of how water running off the street and anything going into the storm drain ends up in the lake, which we're really trying to make that connection with how trash gets into the lake through storm drains, and any kind of pollutants on the roadway get washed into the lake through the storm drain system. And we have a map here of the watershed, the 7 square miles that drain to Lake Merritt. Yeah, so that's that one. And then the last sign is the Tidal Lagoon one here. And this one is located by the Cameron Stanford House. So if you are standing there, you can actually see where and you're looking at the sign, you see where the channel comes into the lake. So we wanted to put that in that location for that reason. And this shows a variety of different animals that live in the lake, and plants and fish. We have a Chinook salmon here because we actually saw some come into the lake recently, and they do come through. So that's, there we go. That's the last one. Let me stop sharing. Okay. That's the quick update for everybody. Just want to let everyone know what the timeline is, and that's what we're looking at is June, and we're hoping to plan some kind of opening. So we'll, yeah, you'll be hearing more from us about that.
There, I see two hands are up, three hands. Hands are going up. David first, and then John. And James, your hand is still up. Is that left over, or are you wanting to
That's a
speak?
new hand.
That's a new hand. Okay, you'll be third. David, John, and then James.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. That was a wonderful report, and those are beautiful signs. How exciting. But somehow I only got 5 just then. And I'll share the 5 I got. Tell me what I'm missing. Hotspot for birds, keep wildlife wild, and first wildlife refuge, the 3 near the Rotary Nature Center. And then I saw Tidal Lagoon and Watershed.
The last one is keeping waterways clean, the one that is located at Snow Park.
That's the one that deals with the drainage, the way that the sewers drain into the lake, right?
It's focused on rain gardens. Yeah, how water gets filtered through the soil and all the layers, and in those rain gardens that are new, that are built along where Snow Park is.
I see. Thank you.
John?
Yes, Jen. There was an opportunity for comment on the signs at a certain stage of your development of the signs. And I saw a brief flash of a screen that said that looked like it was listing the comments and listing the city's response to the comments. Is that available? Could you tell us how to get those responses?
Yeah, I sent that out as an attachment to the email that I sent last week. And I don't know if everybody on this coalition is on that email. So if you would like to receive that email that I sent as a forward, maybe there's somebody on this committee that could send it to everybody.
Mandolin, could you do that? And folks who haven't seen it yet could let Mandolin know in the chat that you'd like to receive it?
Yeah, I'll send it to Mandolin, and then, yeah, and then John, yeah, anybody else can let Mandolin know. That sounds good.
Would you want us to just send it out to the whole list of the DD Coalition subscribers?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay.
Even easier.
That would be great.
James, you're next. Sandy, I see you after James.
Well, I'd like to say something to Jennifer, if I may, James.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Jennifer, I don't remember getting an email from you, but I'm sure I was on your list. And it's the same trouble I have with Mike Perlmutter. I'm not used to these names, so I don't always open them right away. And I have a feeling yours went unopened. So if somewhere you could put DD signage or something that would ring a bell for me and make me want to open it. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah.
James, your turn.
Thank you. 2 questions. I was going to ask you, what is the material? You said it's metal, and I guess I can figure that out. The other question, and I want to congratulate you, very attractive, very informative signs. There are some informational signs that are around the lake now, smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
Will this have any effect on those signs? Will those be replaced? And then the final question, on the map, there is a blue dot in the middle of the lake. Was that intended to be anything or just to say that's Lake Merritt?
I'll start with your last question. The blue dot in the middle was not meant to be anything. I think maybe it just was part of.
It was a
Yeah, I
camera.
think.
It was a
Yeah,
camera.
it says Lake Merritt, but it's not intended to be anything for this, any location for the signs. Your second question was about the existing signs, I believe, and those are not going to be removed. They're going to stay. Those are part of the, I believe it's called Happily Ever After. There was, or
Yes.
yeah, that was that signage project, and that, yeah, those, we definitely took a look at those signs when we were developing these, and that was not a city like developed project. I think it was done with city support, but I believe it was done by an outside organization. And we are not planning to remove those. We did look at those when we were developing these signs, and the signs that we've developed are not duplicative. They have, some similar messages, but I think they'll be complementary. And then James, what was your first question? Can you remind me?
I commented on you said the signs were gonna be metal.
Oh, right.
And I guess is it ceramic on metal or?
It is not ceramic on metal. There is I can send out more information to give this to
I don't need
Mandolin
to,
if you
I
want to
don't
know what exactly it is, but yeah, and it's like they're going to actually shoot the images onto the metal, so it won't be will not be ceramic on metal. It'll be right on the metal itself.
Okay, thank you.
So last comment, David, and then we need to move on.
Thank you, Jenny. Sorry to come again, but my comment is, it occurs to me, both from my own work and my observations, that we currently have a situation at Lake Merritt where there are a number of different departments and or agencies, my own Rotary Nature Center friends included, who are operating autonomously and empowered to place signage around Lake Merritt. I would add the Public Works Department can, if they need to put up a sign, they put it up. They don't check with nobody, and so does Parks and Rec. And it just occurs to me whether or not it might be useful to have a way of monitoring or staying on top of that. So I want to just put that out there.
Thank you, David. We're in a moment, we're going to move on to Craig Pond's report on the DG path repair, but I noticed that there are a couple of folks who've joined us. Charles, please introduce yourself, and if you're representing an organization, tell us the name. And you'll have to unmute yourself. And then I'm going to call on Naoya Fainin.
Silence.
All right. Charles? Okay, don't seem to be getting through this, Charles. How about Naoya Fanin? All right, well.
Jenny,
maybe,
you might ask Robert Kidd to introduce himself.
Robert has disappeared. Oh, there he is. Robert, please introduce yourself. You haven't disappeared.
It's like magic. My name is Robert Kidd. I'm an interested citizen.
And Naoya says she doesn't have a mic or a camera, so we'll just welcome her. And Charles, we haven't connected with, but maybe we'll hear from Charles. Craig, it's nice to know that you are here. Please introduce yourself and give us an update, if you will, please, on the project you've been working on for some time now, this DG path repair around the lakeshore side of the lake.
Apologies for being late, everyone. Doing family stuff here. My name is Craig Pond. I work in public works and facility services. I have been tasked with taking a look at the DG path closest to the east side of Lake Merritt along Lake Shore, and again, adjacent to the lake side. And what we've done is we've worked with a vendor to install some pilot material, some material to some of the damaged pathway as a pilot to test out the material. I wasn't able to attend last meeting because I think it fell on a holiday and I was out of town. But I wanted to kind of provide the information that I provided to Jenny and a number of people via email post meeting. So basically the pilot installation is basically at a location at the end of Brooklyn Avenue, again along Lakeshore Avenue. And what we did is we installed the material to really kind of determine if this material called elephant armor is a suitable material, to look at the cost, to test durability, and to kind of test the applicability of the material, which is a flexible mortar. There were some concerns that came up that really that the material may be too hard and not as forgiving as what we had initially was installed there, which was a resin-based epoxy DG. And that was really really chosen initially to kind of be more forgiving on runners and walkers on joints and knees. I think from everything that we've researched and looked at the product is actually not being sold anymore, and the manufacturer is now out of business. And so that's why we were looking at this new product called elephant armor. And I know there were concerns again that there were that it may be too rigid for the application. So but again, that's kind of the purpose of the project. So we kind of set out to, put out the material. We wanted to catch it earlier in the winter. We missed the one storm, I think. And then we got it into play in like November. And really the goal is to see how it performs in the winter months and during the cold, and some of the difficulties with this material. Well, one of the really nice things about the material was that it can be laid out in an eighth of an inch to a quarter-inch overlay over the existing material. So from a standpoint of public works and doing repairs and maintaining the pathway, it was very suitable. The cost is, it's expensive for that type of material, but in the grand scheme of things, it is not that expensive considering the old medium would have to be completely demoed out and removed from the area. And that may include taking the whole pathway down to its base material. So that's a pretty extensive, invasive operation. Would require extensive permitting since it's right next to the lake. The material that we're piloting would be more of a maintenance repair, and that we would be able to do that as a roll-on and roll-on application and not have as many potential impacts to the lake. To date, I've looked at it on a monthly basis, and the material has performed just fine. We put some coloring into the material and it accepted color and it hasn't faded at all. But we really probably won't be able to tell that until many years down the line. But the only thing that I could say about that is that the manufacturer and vendor has used coloring and dyes on different applications, and they've seemed to be successful with it. So from that standpoint, again, the material seems like a good material to use for this purpose, but I think it really becomes down to the use and the applicability for the purpose, the users that are going to be using the pathway. One of the things that we're looking at going forward was to have a designer or a consultant do planning and do some planning and design for the pathway, and to kind of guide us down the pathway for better materials or a suitable material other than this material elephant armor that we are piloting here. So we could go down that path, and we are looking at that. So I kind of wanted to, open the floor to the group and see what people have thought about this. And I see some hands. I see James and Sam are over.
So Craig,
their hands.
Greg, why don't we take James and Sam's questions right now, but we'll certainly give you a chance to wrap up. Sam, your turn.
Yes, two things. One, is this a trial for this whole city or just for Lake Merritt area?
Say the question again. Is it for all
if
pathways?
If this works out over the next year, 2 years, is it going to be applied elsewhere in the city, or is it just looking at Lake Merritt area?
Yeah, so our group hasn't really been in charge of maintaining pathways throughout the city. So, but there's a number of applications that this material has been being used for, and the manufacturer and vendor has given those to us, and so I would say that it could be used across the citywide for pathways. One place that we are looking at is a specific park in San Antonio Park. There's a call for pathway repair there, and they're not necessarily how do I say, they're not particular with the material that's going to be used because it currently is asphalt. So
okay.
I was thinking possibly of using it there on a bigger site and seeing how it works out as well.
Two comments. One, it's needed all over the city. And second comment is, if this material lasts much, much longer than something that's forgiving for running, I would say it's much better to have something that lasts a long time rather than trying to put something that is flexible but less durable. I would say this is more important to be there. It's replacing concrete, so I don't see the forgivingness is the key.
And
well,
Sam,
actually, DG is not concrete.
Well, yeah, but the thing about DG is that compaction. I mean, I've talked to a number of people, and DG, no matter what you do, it's almost the opinion is that it just degrades at whatever rate it is, but there's always degradation and need for more repair. And so, Sam, that was kind of our thought process, was using something of this type to last longer, exactly like you're saying, because the existing pathway, I think it lasted like maybe 8 years, and they were saying that it was supposed to be last for 15 to 20 years, and then the company again is no longer in business, probably because of that fact. So but so that is exactly one of the considerations that you bring up, Sam.
James, your turn.
Okay, thanks, Craig. I did go and look at the patch. I had a hard time finding it. I passed it over first time because I didn't think that was it. So I continued walking all the way up to the pergola. But came back on the way back, I figured that must be it. It was a very small patch, so it wasn't a very big sample to take a look at. And it's very different from the previous material. However, if it's durable, as Sam said, and it can be installed fairly easily and can be go over the existing services without having to go down to the base, I'm willing to accept it, but it is quite different. However, the patch that's there now does not look like it was professionally done. It's not smooth. It's not, it doesn't look like it had an edge form to create a, you know, a definitive edge. And so just wonder if when it is put down as the permanent replacement material, if it will look professional, it will be smooth, because this is not smooth. The patch that's there now, it's a very small patch and it's not smooth. I thought that it was originally just a temporary cover for the removal of a pipe or something. But I'm willing to accept it if it's going to be done professionally, and we'll, you know, have edge forms, and we'll have scoring so that it's, you know, help with the expansion and contraction and so forth. Thanks.
So James, yes, thanks for your insight there. I agreed. The application that was put down was actually the one that it was half a linear. It's like a very symmetrical patch that was there, and we did half the walkway, half the width, that is. And then there's one further to the north towards Grand, and it's a real another small application. But again, it was really kind of to see the material in that in that instance. For instance, covering the asphalt at 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch, and then the one further to the north was a slightly different application. It was more of a pothole situation, and they filled that entire pothole. So, and you are correct that the finish was not very smooth, but they're trying to show us that, you know, you could do whatever finish you want. You could finish it as smooth as like a foundation or a garage slab, similar to that. But, you know, they were thinking that, oh, when they put it in, that they want a little bit of texture so that it wouldn't be a slip issue. You know, so they didn't do the fine finish of completely smooth, glassy like look there.
Craig, a question for you. Is the idea that the city would apply 1/4 to an 1/8 inch and also fill the potholes? Will the city be doing this, or will the Elephant Armor folks be doing it?
So the Elephant Armor vendor does not actually do applications, but they do have a, I mean, they are the ones who put out the warranty and the manufacturer specs and things of that nature. So they won't necessarily warranty it without some type of application or oversight by their staff. So there's two routes that we could really follow. The first one is having a contractor, you know, come on, and we can require them to look at the specifications, look at the applications, and apply it accordingly to their standards and specifications. That would probably be the best way, because then that way we get all the manufacturer warranties and, you know, guarantees. And then what I would say is having, you know, spot repairs as needed, having city staff maybe do that if needed. We could go, the second route would be just going straight for it with city staff. You know, we did have a number of people at that application when it was installed, and they got some training. I wouldn't say they're experts at it because, it's the first time seeing the product, and but it's similar to like a concrete finish. So, a concrete finisher could finish it accordingly to our asks.
Bill, you have your hand up, and then there's a question from Na in the chat.
Yes, Craig, what is your vision or your department's vision for the use of whatever material is selected? Is this envisioned as a series of pothole patches to be dispersed intermittently throughout the path? Or is it a resurfacing of a layer uniformly throughout the path, possibly with preservative function as well?
That's a great question, William. My vision, which I've talked to with the manager of our division, as well as Richard Battersby, our assistant director. My vision is to really fill the holes, the current degradations, with either material, with the material, or with DG, to bring it up to flush surface and then overlaying the entire pathway. So it's one uniform pour. And that way, you'll get one color, right? You won't get splotchy coloring, and it'll look nice. It'll be uniform, and it will give you a good starting point, versus just filling potholes and then having another portion open up. So that's kind of what I envision. And again, utilizing a contractor to do that, we would be able to do that. The application that we put in there took actually a little longer than we thought. But if it's done like what I was explained to by the vendor was that if it's done during a warmer weather, because it was cold weather, if it's done with warmer weather using warm water, the material can set up and be put down within like 100-foot sections, like within like a half a day, and it would be dry within like 2 or 3 hours to a point where it'd be walkable. So there wouldn't be a lot of closures and things of that nature. You could put it down and do a pretty good overlay at a pretty rapid pace and get the whole thing done.
Craig, a couple of questions for you. I'm going to read both of them and then ask you to respond. From Nafanine, she says, are we talking about the Lakeshore sidewalk from El Embarcadero all the way to 12th Street? That's a first question. Her second is, do we know the cost to fix this sidewalk properly without all the hassles? And then a question from Gilbert Gong, has a polymer bonding agent like soil tack, which is used for dirt airplane landing strips, been considered for, quote, locking down the existing DG? So there you have 3 questions in the chat.
Yeah, they're in the chat. Let me pull up the chat so I can see them because let's see. So let's see, costs and polymer, and then the first one. What was the first one?
Are we talking about?
Oh yes, the area. Mm-hmm. So it is from El Embarcadero, from just after the pergola at El Embarcadero. Again, adjacent to the lake, all the way down to the 12th Street pedestrian bridge, almost. Again, adjacent to the lake, and we're not talking about the sidewalk up on Lakeshore, because there's essentially the sidewalk and then the pathway. The question here.
So then go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I jumped to the last one. The polymer bonding, soil tack. So the resin that was used is, I think it's similar to soil tack, but the the material, the vendor that actually created elephant armor does have a polymer binder that they also showed us. It's a polymer binder plus the primer that they put on prior to applying the elephant armor. So I would say yes to that question. Soil tech specifically, I have not looked at that itself. And there's what was the third question here? I'm sorry.
So there was a question, does anyone know how much it would cost to fix that?
Yeah, the cost. So I tried to pull up multiple ways of the initial project and how much it cost to build to get a comparison. Again, that was years ago, so it would have to be some type of multiplier on top of it. Plus, right now, costs are just skyrocketing with pandemic and supply chain stuff issues. So I don't have a specific cost, but I suspect that the funding that's currently earmarked is probably not enough to do the demo and reinstallation, because it would have to be, you'd have to get plan sets done and just plan design permits, do the full boat for a project there. So so at this point, I don't have the defined costs. I did reach out to our contract compliance as well as the contractor that performed the work. And I could, if I really push, I could get those costs to shore up, essentially comparisons of going that route versus another route.
One more question, and this is from Sam, and then we'll move along. And Craig will give you the final word after Sam poses his question.
Can you send a map to DD showing us where the patches are?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I see that question. I can definitely send the map.
And Craig, remind us, when are you thinking this application would take place?
Well, I mean, I kind of wanted to get again, hear back from people as far as performance goes for the material that, is being piloted. I don't see a problem with it through the months that it's been applied. It's been only a short time, but again, the vendor has the manufacturer the warranties and guarantees. So, if I start hearing enough yays to this, then, we can move forward with, putting out a contract to have it put down, and seeing what that'll cost, also receiving bids. If we go a separate secondary route to have a consultant come in and give us their assessment and evaluation and opinion, then we're talking much longer, because we'd probably have to investigate all those options before making a decision.
Does anybody want to suggest a course of action? Or I will suggest, yes, James.
Oh, you're on mute.
I recommend that DD give its approval to the material that's been demonstrated to move ahead with the project to the limits of the amount that's available, and is to ensure that it is properly finished and it's professionally done and has professional finish.
Sam?
I'd suggest more testing. I suggest testing in different locations, different finishes, and different applications, and then seeing how it progresses. More testing is needed, and more applications.
Any other comments?
I think Jenny, I mean, obviously, I'll try to get the answers. I mean, I'll provide the map. I'll try to get the prices. I mean, I have tried I made a pretty good effort in trying to obtain the initial cost of the installation. I really wanted to understand that further, because if it was, back in, what was it, like 2008 or something like that, or 2007, and it was 300,000, then obviously it's going to cost much more than that now in today's costs. So, but at least we have it as a benchmark and a placeholder to understand that that's what the costs were then. And then going forward from that, I can see if we can get more applications done along the pathway, per Sam's suggestion or recommendation.
My recommendation was that we move ahead with the proposal. I mean, this has been going on for quite some time now, and I think for the safety of the public and so forth, I think we should move ahead with the project.
Craig, I'm going to ask Bill to comment, David to comment. Please keep your comments brief. And then I'm going to ask for a show of hands who agrees with James about moving forward now, and who feel they would like to see more testing. So Bill, you first, and then David, for your brief comments, please.
Craig, your department and your boss have indicated some willingness to take this on. What do you see as the window of opportunity for the fiscal resources necessary to do it? In other words, if we spend a lot of time testing and comparing, might that window close and the funds no longer be as available as they seem to be at the moment?
I think, well, I mean, for now, the fiscal year is a 2-year budget cycle, right? So, and there are Measure Q funds that are set aside. So we're currently in the first year. I think there's still room, you know, and if we get into contract, you know, if we get into contract sooner, or let's say 6 months down the line, or just prior to the end of the fiscal year, I think there's still room, you know, to go ahead and continue with that into the following year, because the funds will be encumbered, you know, through a contract. So I think there's room for there's time, I guess. It doesn't have to be done right away, but I think preferably council and the community and just for the general public use, you don't want to wait too long, right? So but I think it kind of depends on, you know, decisions made internally and combined collaboratively here.
David?
Jenny, I raised my hand to second what I heard as a motion from James.
And Sam?
Yeah, just to clarify, I didn't mean to test and not go ahead. I agree with James, go ahead, but also do testing more extensively at the same time. I would move ahead with the project as it is, but also expand where it might be used.
Sam, please clarify, what is it you think needs more testing?
In different applications. It's expensive to go and do a widespread usage of it without some testing, but the areas you're testing in are very specific, and you should move ahead with those. But I would expand the usage of it by testing other areas at the same time.
Are you talking about other areas of the city, or are we just talking about this walkway?
Other areas of application, could be other areas of the city, or just ways it goes in. I mean, potholes versus on running paths versus in front of houses, etc.
Okay,
it's needed
so
throughout the city.
I think what James is, may I clarify what I think we're talking about? James is suggesting, and David has seconded the idea, that we give Craig the go ahead for the use of this elephant armor on the DG path next to the lake. There may be other places in the city where there's some application, but that's, I think, what we're talking about here.
I agree with that. I second what James said. Just move ahead with the project as it is. I'm saying do more.
Jenny, if I could
elsewhere.
Yeah, if I did actually think, just to address Sam's question, we did also do 2 test applications that are coming to mind actually that I didn't mention. At our corporation yard in a driveway situation, there we had a test patch. We have a test patch at that same location where a curb has been replaced with this material. And then at that same park with the pathways that I mentioned before at San Antonio Park, it's proposed to use this material for like an overlay of what they're calling basketball bleacher stands, concrete stands, but they're really just kind of like steps leading to the basketball court at San Antonio Park. So we are exploring the use of this material in other locations, other applications. Department of Transportation I know is also looking at the material also.
Good. That's what I was advocating. Good enough. You're already doing it. Good.
Thank you. So may I see a show of hands of everybody who wants to give Craig the go-ahead? I see some thumbs and hands, and this is looking good.
I feel good about
Craig.
it, Jenny.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Craig. And I think what we're saying here is we look forward to getting seeing that repair happening sooner rather than later.
Got it. Thank you, everyone.
All righty, let's turn now to the DD Program Manager's report, and Rebecca will wrap her comments about fencing at the Peralta wetlands into that report. So Mike, you're on.
Right, thanks everyone. So once again, I am stepping into Kristen Hathaway's shoes with a lot of support from my supervisor, Terry Fashing, who's here. Kristen does a lot of things that we're just learning about since she's absent. So we're going to do our best to cover this information. And if you have follow-up questions or questions during the presentation, please let me know. I'm going to share my screen. So normally Kristen runs through this table here, which I will send you this table. All the project information is updated here. The financials are not yet updated, but rather than go through this table as normal, for my own benefit and hopefully for yours, I thought it'd be easier to just kind of frame it a little differently and just go through project by project that's listed in this presentation, just to put an image or a map and the same information that would be in the table. I thought it might just help us kind of track things this way. So Rebecca, you are on deck. I'm going to pass this to you pretty quickly for 3 project updates. This project here, Lake Merritt Improvement Project at the Garden Center at the Grand Avenue entrance, is done. And it's just in the final steps of financial wrap up. Looks beautiful. Snow Park Lakeside Green Street project, similarly, it is also done, and the city is just waiting for the plant establishment period to end this spring. And at that point, the project will be completely wrapped up. You can see Snow Park, you can see a lot of, you're probably very all familiar with this, all the green infrastructure facilities around the roadways around Lake Merritt. That's all integrated in one project, and it helps beautify the lake, and it helps with some habitat and also a lot of water quality improvements around the lake. There's a lot of trail projects that are in various stages of completion. This one is complete at the Harbor Master Trail connection over by Embarcadero and 16th Avenue. This was finished last May. And Rebecca, are you here? Can I turn?
I'm hanging on by a thread.
Okay, so just tell me when you want me to advance slides. I have 3 project updates for you. I have the the channel at 10th Street, and then 2 trail projects. And we can just tell me when you want me to advance the slides.
All right, so these are aerials of the relationship of Peralta Park that was originally part of the 12th Street Bridge updates and the 10th Street Bridge updates. However, when it was first completed a number of years ago, the homeless started moving in for encampments. And apparently a series of fence-offs were, fencing off the area were completed to no avail. The fences were just ripped down, and all of the wetland plantings were destroyed by people coming in and using essentially the channel there for bathing and whatever else. So you can go to the next slide. And so we've just installed this 8-foot-high steel picket fence that goes the entire length, almost from between the bridges, to eliminate the encampments and hopefully, for the most part, the access for all sorts of people that just come and go. There's some guy out there with a machete who is hacking away at the steel posts. And I saw one of the native trees that had been planted was hacked off. And I assume it was by the machete guy, but hopefully it was before the gates were put in. There are 2 gates in this for the Park Service. One is a man gate at the 12th Street Bridge side, and the other end towards 10th Street is an equipment gate. And what you're seeing in the little inset that Mike has here is a cantilevered piece that further blocks, when the water is up, blocks access into the park. And while I'm on this park, I was looking to enlist this group to see if we could come up with 4 or 5 volunteers to help clean up this now fenced off area and return it to its best condition. It's in pretty raggedy condition. The Keep Oakland Beautiful group did a great job, but they don't pick up trash and things of that nature. And I figure if I had 4 or 5 volunteers for a Saturday, we could get it done in 2 to 3 hours max. So since you're a volunteer organization caring about the water, I was hoping I could coordinate through you to enlist for Saturday morning to clean, just pick up the trash and to remove this fencing where they tried to protect the wetlands plantings. So with the fence in place, the question is, will a lot of the native plants that were planted for wetlands, will they recover? And if they don't recover, then we'll come back in and do another replanting in the fall. You can go to the next slides, Mike. So I'm also overseeing construction of a pedestrian and bike trail that continues from Union Park there to the north along the Oakland Estuary, the tidal canal there, and continues down along the waterfront to the Park Street Bridge. This project has been through many challenges and has been delayed for a number of years. And we've just executed time extensions to the consultants for this segment of this work to try and finish up, complete the designs and get work out to bid for construction. Next slide.
So Rebecca, just remind us, have there been problems with the property owners here not giving approval?
They won't even let us gain access to do the survey and geotechnical boring work that we have to do for proper structural design. This is a very challenging portion of the river. We've got a railroad and lots of fill. So that's our next step, is to try to get access.
Jenny, could I make a comment?
Yes.
I've mentioned in the past that the city has the power of eminent domain, which gives the city the ability to gain access to private property to achieve some important public purpose. And I would like to know whether the city is willing to consider the use of eminent domain in these situations where these private property owners are simply refusing to cooperate with the city and in that way, as a result, functioning as complete obstacles to any ability to work on to gain to make progress on these projects.
Well,
I think that's an important part
Yes,
of
and
what we should be looking into.
the sub-consultant, so eminent domain is a little further down the road. And I want to call you Linda because that's all I can
Yeah,
say.
I know. I apologize.
What's your name again?
It's John.
John. So eminent domain would come at later, because that is a court-ordered effort to take over land for public use. And so we are seeking through a very experienced special services in gaining access and permission to enter to at least get the testing done that we need for completing design work. The business of acquiring or condemning, which is what eminent domain would be, is a lengthy and expensive process. So that is further down the road. And I know it's on the table for consideration, but we have more steps to complete prior to that kind of decision being made.
But if you can't get onto the site to do the testing, to even learn whether or not this is a feasible site for what the city wants to see happen here, how do you even get to the point of considering?
No, we can get, so the first step is, again, we've brought on an expert. They're described as the pit bull of getting access to private properties for just this sort of service. And if they're not able to get willing participation from these owners for these very simple tasks that the design team needs, they are also collecting all of the documentation required to get a court-ordered permission to enter for these 3 properties. Of course, the court-ordered permission will take more time. But
John, hold on.
Yeah.
Rick it's Rick's turn, and then we're going to let Rebecca move ahead. Rick?
Okay, thanks, Sherry. I just want to add into that this is a discussion that's gone on for 10, 12 years. And in the past, the city's position has been that the city attorney would not use eminent domain. And so it might be worth asking the question as you go forward, if the city is even willing to consider it, because we can use all the bulldogs we want, but if the city is going to take the position that eminent domain is not in our toolkit, then that's a wasted effort.
I agree 100%, Rick. And the issue remains. So as you all may recall, I'm brand new on all of these projects, but yes, these projects have a tortured and long history behind them. And the eminent domain, the question is who would secure that? And we're still waiting for that answer, because if East Bay Regional Park District carries this forward as acquisition and eminent domain, then they would do so. I agree. I don't believe the city of Oakland would, but we've never gotten that far in this process. So
Becca, I'm going to urge, I can just see us getting tying ourselves in knots around this. Let's move on.
Thank you.
To the next project.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Well, these are two projects that are just connections to the trail. There's an existing waterfront trail on the south side of Park Street Bridge. What we were discussing and what we know is a very, very challenging situation is to the north of Park Street Bridge. And so the design firm Moffett and Nickel, who are bridge engineers, are designing pathways that go underneath the bridges, like via the catwalks that are there as maintenance catwalks, and widening those catwalks for public access, and they will connect to the trails on land on either side. And when we head further south to High Bridge, that is the intended direction as well, is to come down off of an existing waterfront trail, use a catwalk type structure to come back up and around, and then onto the strip of land that East Bay Regional Park District owns adjacent to these gravel and processing centers. And that's because these projects, all of them, were put on hold back in 2020. I have been getting contract time extensions to bring them back on board. There's been changeover of personnel at the Coast Guard, and Kristen apparently has worked magic with the Alameda County Public Works. Each one of these agencies had been adamantly opposed to anything involving the bridges. And now there seems to be movement. And so we're seeking to confirm that and move ahead with completing design for those two connections. So design and permitting by late 2024, with anticipated completion of construction by 2026.
Thank you, Rebecca.
You're welcome, Mike.
I'm going to keep moving through these projects, updates, very quick, high level. Another one, so this one is at the Fruitvale Bridge. So the bridge right in between the bridges Rebecca has been talking about. This is in permit review with City of Oakland, as well as Bay Conservation Development Corporation. People know them as BCDC. And this is anticipated for construction in spring of 2024. Estuary Park, it's been a major topic for this group lately. There's a draft master plan, which is expected at the end of this month. That will inform California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA work with environmental impact reports. And this project is slated to happen in phases, with the first phase going to construction in the fall, approximately of 2023. That's the hope. There's a website there. It's you can find a lot of information on the city website here, right at the bottom. If you have any more questions about that, and Christine Reed has been here to talk to this group, so you all have her contact as well. Sorry, no picture for this one. This is the East Bay Regional Park District project over at Brooklyn Basin. This is on our spreadsheet, so I just thought I'd talk about this update right now. So the tie gate operations guidance for the 7th Street flood control facility. So this is in relation to Lake Merritt and tidal exchange and water quality and flood control and how it all works together. So as you know, there was a memo drafted by a city consultant, Wood Rogers. This was on behest of City of Oakland. That memo detailed a study and some recommendations for the Alameda County Flood Control District, which owns and operates that tide gate. City and consultants and county met to discuss the next steps. The consensus at that meeting was that only marginal water quality benefits would be predicted from modifying the 7th Street pump station operation, and that there were other constraints that were factors. And those constraints pointed to the need for more large capital improvements to get the water quality enhancement that was sought. So Wood Rogers came to this group at November 15th, shared all these findings. At this point, the manager of this project from the city is also on leave. We don't have any further updates beyond what I just shared. Kristen Hathaway is on leave as well. She and the engineer would typically receive feedback. I am happy to receive feedback and pass it along, but I don't know that we'll be able to act on that until Kristen is back in August. But the one thing, the more proactive thing that I can offer, because I know this group is really interested in this issue, is that we are working to get a referral in case the group wants to reach out to the county on its own. So I think there's probably some hands up, although I can't see all the hands. And so if Jenny, if you want to moderate any comments or discussions.
Katie, you'll have to unmute yourself, Katie.
Yes, sorry about that. Yeah, so there was clearly a consensus and a great desire on the part of members of the coalition to meet with Wood Rogers to discuss the draft protocol. And so I would like to just reiterate how strongly we feel it's important for us to be able to clarify and have dialogue. And also, you mentioned referral to the county. What are you thinking of providing a name of a person or serving as some kind of a liaison where individuals could talk to the people in charge of the tide gate operation at the county level? Because clearly the desire of the Measure DD bond issue was to increase tidal flow in the lake, and evidence presented by John Bowers, Dick Bailey, and a number of people have suggested that that might not be the case, either in the protocol that was presented to us or in the actual practice. So hopefully you would help to hook us up with the Wood Rogers folks and also the county.
So in terms of the county, we are looking to get a contact that can speak to this issue and hear feedback from the coalition, either individuals who want to reach out or the coalition, as a group. In terms of meeting with Wood Rogers, the contract that we have with Wood Rogers that the city has with them for this right now is effectively done. So if that's going to happen on time that is remunerated, that's a discussion that's going to need to wait until the engineer and Kristen are back and can consider that. And I don't even know if that, I don't know what those decisions will be, but I'm not at liberty to connect you with Wood Rogers to have those conversations.
Terry, you have your hand up.
Right. I was going to say the two things that Mike just said. But I wanted to also just add that yeah, I will be reaching out to the head of the flood control district to find out the best folks to direct the coalition to. And, you know, the other thing, I did talk with Kristen about this today. We had a little check-in. We are waiting to hear back from the district. And so we do want to receive written comments from the district on this guidance document that we produced. So, but the timeline for that, I am not clear on that. And I apologize that, you know, both Mike and I are in a learning curve on this particular issue. And I do really think that this will be picked up again when Kristen's back. So I guess the next meeting when Kristen will be back will be September. And so we're kind of in a bit of a holding pattern until then, except for that we will provide some contact information for folks at the district. And I think that the questions for the district would be about the tide gate operations, because again, this is a memo that we created. They did not create it. And so we are waiting for comments from them. However, if there are comments about the facility itself, those we do encourage that those are directed to the district. So that's all.
John?
This is, oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll go after John.
Well, the only thing that I wanted to add here is that one of the issues that Mike hasn't included in his presentation is that there were a number of observations and critiques made of this Wood-Rogers report. And we wanted to sit down with the city and go over those things. This is a report that the city paid for, and the city should get its money's worth. It should get the value that it put into this report. And with the flaws that we think we have identified in this report, that is simply not the case. And so when we made our observations to the DD Coalition back in November, the DD Coalition established this ad hoc committee to meet with the city to talk about and address these deficiencies in the Wood-Rogers report. That interaction has not occurred. And I, for one, and I think there are other people who feel the same way, I think are still interested in having that interaction with the city about the contents of the Wood-Rogers report, the deficiencies that we have identified in that report, and to discuss ways in which those deficiencies might in some way or another be corrected.
I'm going to call on Adrian and then Rebecca. Adrian, your turn.
Yeah, it's similar to what just John said. I think it's disappointing that the city went to the Alameda flood control first without getting comments from us. And now it seems like there's no opportunity to adjust the memo. And I think we really want the city to be on our page before you present things to the county. Because I think there's a lot of expertise in this room about the lake and the tides and things like that got left behind.
Rebecca, are you commenting, are you back to the volunteers at the lake, or are you commenting on what we're talking about here?
No, I don't know anything about tide gate, about this particular project. I do know about tide gates, and I know about pump stations and all of that, and those things can be extremely expensive ways to resolve what you folks are trying to resolve. And I hear that you're not happy with the report. So I'll try to track down a copy of it to see what it says. But yes, I'm
Well, I'm going to encourage everyone who is interested in volunteering to enter that into the chat now so that Rebecca has that information.
I just need two
we
more.
are going to
Two
need
more.
Thank you, Rebecca. We need to move ahead here. So Mike, you've heard it, profound disappointment with regard to where we are on the Tide Gate report. I think that's a fair statement. Do you want to complete your report?
Yes. So thank you all for the feedback. I've taken notes that it'll be in the notes, and Terry and I will share that feedback with the staff that have agency on this issue. We do not at this moment. So, but we will pass on whatever feedback we get from this group, and I hear you very loud and clear. So I'm going to keep moving on to the general report. On to good news. Lake Merritt Channel at 7th Street pedestrian crosswalk is done. Look at how nice that looks. Finished on August 2022.
Just to state, it did receive some damage in an accident, so it is no longer done. It is still needs work.
The work of repairing the world is never done.
Oops.
We can at least start the work. Moving on to an exciting project. This is the restoration of 3 stretches of Cortland Creek along Cortland Creek Park near High Street in Oakland. We're at the stage of developing the design plan, 65% design plan. So we do this iteratively with all the way up to 95 and then 100% plans. So we're getting further in the design, working on all the permits that are needed to implement this work. And the big exciting thing is that this project, which has a huge price tag of $5.8 million, is now fully funded with the receipt of two sets of funds from Caltrans, a $2.03 million grant, as well as $190,000 in mitigation funds. So that's a huge accomplishment and is going to get this project over the finish line. Here's a project at the other end of the race. This project is just getting going. So we heard about Cortland Creek getting all its funding and design. This is over at Glen Echo Creek, much closer to Lake Merritt. You can see these 3 boxes. These are 3 stretches of daylighted creek segment that are targeted for restoration work. We're in the phase of just initial data gathering by a consultant, looking for funding, working on how we're going to engage the public on this issue. And this project, here's just some specs. So it's 1,000 feet of open creek channel. The goals are to stabilize and repair the steep and eroding creek banks, restore native riparian vegetation, and enhance Oak Glen Park. And all of those things have, other benefits as well, but those are the, the high level goals for this project. So this is in kind of the very early planning stages right now. Also, this is on our spreadsheet. Early planning is some restoration of the Beaconsfield branch of Saucil Creek, highlighted there in yellow. It's in the pre-design phase, very early. Again, this project will need funding to move forward. Watershed acquisition is another category in DD. We're working on a number of things. One is we're looking at a GIS prioritization of where might be some good spots for acquiring either property itself or conservation easement over property to protect wildlands and watershed important areas. So we're looking at lots of data overlays. This map has a lot of information, but the green are existing parklands. The blues that you see are areas that have been identified by a 10-county regional effort to look at where are conservation priorities around the entire Bay Area. So we're looking at that. We're looking at where there are creeks, where there are important areas for wildlife, for native plants. You can see those things are starting to pop up on the map in reds and blues there. So we're looking at how to prioritize where do we put our money to make the best impact. We're also coordinating with a lot of external partners, such as the East Bay Regional Park District, the Segura Te Land Trust. And we're doing a lot of work internally to just try and coordinate and make sure that anywhere we have areas already in city possession that are important habitat areas, that we work to conserve them and make sure that we know about them, that we know about creekside parcels, and that they're not unwittingly developed, for instance, or damaged. And we are, of course, always working with various property owners to inquire or to receive inquiries about donation and or sale of properties or conservation easements. All right, this one is exciting, and I'm going to have Adrian, well, I'll walk you through the high level, and then I think later on the agenda, Adrian might give you some more information about what's happening on the website. But we have a contract, and here's the update on the contract. We've been moving information over to the city's webpage so that information on Measure DD projects and the coalition is all on the city webpage. Major kudos to Adrian Cotter, who wears a lot of hats in this group. And one hat you may not know is that he is an amazing web designer, and he has been getting a lot of information over from Bale's fantastic site over to the city site. And we're trying to do that in a way that we don't lose information and that we have really good organization and findability for everything you need to know. We also just today found out that we have a system for a listserv for this group. So very soon, you won't be getting general information emails from me. You'll be getting them from a centralized Measure DD email address that the public will have this kind of platform to sign up and manage their subscription, sign up, unsubscribe. So everything will, and then you can correspond with the agenda committee that way. So it will take me out of the role that I've been filling, and just to, connecting the coalition and city staff. You'll have a direct conduit this way. So I know people have been asking for that. Very exciting, just happened today. Mandolin Kadera Redmond, she is working behind the scenes. She's facilitating this meeting and many other things on our contract. And she is with the Oakland Parks and Rec Foundation, who we are contracting with. And we're still finalizing that contract, believe it or not, but it's getting closer. And that contract will run through December of 2026. And that's my update for the project's update. I think the next thing on the agenda is a DD wish list. Do you want me to just keep rolling into that?
Kristen, could I interrupt? Pardon me, Jenny, could I interrupt to say how
Yes.
wonderful the work that Adrian has been doing on behalf of the coalition. We all owe a debt of thanks to him. And this is not a small project, and he's doing it on a volunteer basis, is my understanding, which is just extraordinarily generous. We're talking about something over 1,000 files and documents to be moved, relinked and restructured. And it's just a huge effort on his part. And though it's invisible to most of us, other than the work product that is emerging, please know that this is a big job, and a big thank you is due him.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adrian. Why don't we take up the wish list in just a moment? But Adrian, did you want to show something with regard to the website?
I think in the interest of time, we can do that maybe next month.
Okay.
And
All right.
maybe a couple other things will be further along. But I appreciate the shout out, Bill. Thanks.
All right, so then let's go to the wish list. Mike, you had something to say about that?
Sure, and yes, all the accolades go to Adrian. He's doing an amazing job, and so take a look. We'll send out the link to the website is on the agenda. It's on a lot of things. Take a look and see what's on there already, and the meeting minutes from past meetings, and we're also connecting to we'll be connecting to the city's YouTube page so that we can post these meeting recordings there. We're tying a lot of things together, so it's very exciting. All right, to the wish list. This slide came from Adrian, who presented on the Measure DD wish list, which is basically this group looking to prioritize some projects for some DD money and how to do that. And I took Adrian's presentation, which had lots of pictures and text, and I just distilled it down into, it kind of looked like this. This is one of the slides. I distilled it down into a table that just shows the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 projects that popped up as priorities for this group. There are some other projects that were ranked lower or are still maybe more conceptual, but this group was interested in these 7 projects. And there's 2 pathways for them. So the bottom project, the sailboat house rental facilities, this group was just interested in finding out, is the space being promoted and is it being utilized as effectively as it could be to raise revenue and to just be a resource to the community? And that is a question that I'm just going to refer you over to the folks that own and operate that facility, which is the Oakland Parks, Recreation, Youth Development Department, OPRYD. So I put a link to where you can find information on how to rent this facility and also the contact information for them. So that would be a question for that group. And as far as these other projects, which are projects to build or repair different things, the pathway for this is through the city's capital improvement program, the CIP, and there's information on the city web page about how that operates, and the next cycle for that, which is going to open up this summer. So there's a website. I think, yeah, here's what that website kind of looks like, and it has lots of good information and tells you, it has a link to the existing portfolio projects that are being worked on right now. I highlighted this part about the projects open up in the summer, and then those projects that are accepted go into the next 2-year budget beginning July 1st, 2023. So Adrian had asked about, how do these projects get elevated onto the CIP list, and is there any difference because it's coming from the coalition versus coming from, the general public? And the mechanism is still the same. Everyone still goes through this portal. I know there were some challenges with the last round. I don't know what happened there, but I do know, and I talked to Terry, that what we, since these are coalition projects, it would be helpful for the coalition to input them and keep us apprised. We'd be happy to review them before they get inputted. And then once they're inputted, we want to know so that we can just check with our city staff colleagues to make sure that it got in the system this time and that we're not going to have, any hiccups like happened last time. So we want to make sure that this process operates smoothly. So that's what I can say about the wish list. And if there's any questions, I can take them.
Are there any questions here, Adrian?
So Mike, one question is the channel projects, so there's no way that I can independently confirm that project is in process? How long is it going to be waiting for a project manager? What happens at the end of this capital improvement, this current 2-year? Does it get bumped up to the top of the queue in the next one? Like what's the process for that? Because that's never been made clear to us.
I don't know the process. I'm happy to but Terry is raising her hand, so take it away.
Well, I was going to say, I also do not know the process. We can absolutely check with our project and grants management division. Yes, we just really need to speak with them to understand that this is still new for them. It's new for us, this new process where we take projects from the community. So I think that it's been a bit of a work in progress. This is really good for both me and Mike, and we're going to be able to go back to them and just better understand how to talk about the process with all of you. So we will check with them and be able to provide an update. Mike provide an update, in writing, but also in a future meeting. And Kristen will be back when this is all happening. And so I suspect at the September meeting, this could be on the agenda, right? Because that's about the right timing. Yeah, go ahead.
James and then Katie. James, you'll have to unmute yourself.
When we developed the wish list, it was related to excess funds that might be remaining in Measure DD. And I mean, there were some other things that were not. For instance, there was a submission to the capital improvements project for servicing the east side pathway between 10th Street and 12th Street bridges. And I don't know, that got lost, I guess, but that wasn't on our wish list. That went into the capital improvements project, whatever basket. But the wish list projects that we prioritized were supposed to be financed by the excess funds that were remaining in the Measure DD budget. So doesn't that make a difference between the general capital improvements project procedure and the Measure DD wish list?
Should I answer that?
Go for it.
Okay. If there is some funding attached to a project, it does affect the way that the project is scored in the process. But if a project is not fully funded, then it is entered into the whole prioritization process. And this is where I want to reach out to the project and grants management division so that I can make sure that I'm properly describing the process to you all. But also just to let you know, once they start that process, there will be many public engagement meetings. And so that is going to be the most important thing, is that we find out from them what is the process and how will they be informing the public. And then we need to let you know what that is going to be like. And then we need to also better understand how this works when we're talking about Measure DD funding, right? I really understand what you're getting at, James. And I think Adrian was making this point. These are Measure DD funds. So like I said, Mike and I are in this learning curve with Measure DD, but we will we'll ask some more questions and get some more answers and then get back to you.
Katie.
Yes, I basically want to agree or support what James said. I've submitted capital improvement proposals for 2 years on behalf of the Rotary Nature Center area, both of which were not granted or funded. Put in a lot of work on it, went to many engagement meetings on that behalf. And it does seem to me that the funds that were left over from the Measure D bond should be decided upon by the Measure DD coalition rather than by some kind of a central office that doesn't have the funds. Unless we talk additional funds. Yes.
I'm going to suggest at this point that it's clear that we do not yet again have all the information we need. And
Yeah.
let us, Terry and Mike, I so appreciate that you are trying to come up to speed about this, rather than our continuing to express what I think you may sense is a certain amount of exasperation. Let me suggest to the next agenda committee and to the two of you that we set aside time at the May meeting to once and for all understand this process, what we have to do in order to move the channel wish list, if that still needs our help, and the Lake Merritt wish list forward. And you all will be heroes if you, and heroines, if you can really settle this. I cannot tell you how many meetings we've had where we have just kind of circled the drain and not gotten where we need to get on it. So I'm going to, in the interest of time, and so we all stay cool, since we'll be going to bed soon and we don't want to have smoke coming out of our ears. I'm going to suggest we move ahead right now and hear Bill Threlfall in 30 seconds tell us Estuary Park Study Group update.
Well, we'll be brief. We've made a little progress, and the engagement that we desired has been established with Christine Reed and the design team. And what it boils down to is that we have an intention to catch up after establishing an initial contact with her and expressing the coalition's concerns in a single document. We received some feedback from them, largely which amounted to, we'll be able to attend to these things as the design develops. At that point, it was really too early. So we're going to have an informal catch up with her near the end of this month, and then we intend to invite her to present to the coalition about progress on the design at our next meeting in May. And so I'll leave it at that in the interest of time.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for being succinct. All righty, we're going to, I'm going to ask your forbearance. This meeting is going to run over absolutely no more than 10 minutes, more like 5. So stick with me, please. This is now the time for the nomination and election of the next agenda committee. You may recall that in January, there was an invitation and an encouragement for people to indicate their willingness to serve on the next agenda committee. And the agenda committee serves for a year. The idea is that we elect the new agenda committee in March, invite the nominations in January, and elect the new agenda committee in March, who then take over at the May meeting. So here we are on time. And I'm in the recent past, the objective has been to have a member of the outgoing committee continue to serve as continuity, and 2 new members. I'm happy to tell you that Adrian has agreed to be one of the 3, as have Myra Redman and John Bowers. So that is the slate before you. I see James has his hand up. Do you want to make a comment, and then we'll move ahead with a vote?
I want to move the election of the nominated agenda committee.
Excellent. Do I hear a second? So this is a second to James' proposal that Adrian, Myra, and John be the agenda committee going forward.
So
Do I hear?
I second. This is Rick.
Great, Rick. All righty. How we're going to vote is people are just going to raise their hands if they want to say, yes, we like this forthcoming agenda committee. So let's see a show of hands. All right.
I don't know. Can we vote for ourselves?
You bet. Absolutely. I hope you do. If you don't, I'll just wonder about this. All righty. Well, that looks of everybody's faces I can see who are not city staff. I see hands up. So that is a wonderful. That's a new agenda committee. I want to let you know that David Wolford and I have had the pleasure of being part of the agenda committee and wish you all the best of luck. David, you want to say one word and then we'll move right ahead with announcements and wrap up the meeting.
Thank you, Jenny. It was a wonderful opportunity and honor to be able to serve on the agenda committee for the DD Coalition, which is doing such great work. Looking forward to continuing.
Great. James, do you want to say anything?
Very briefly, just to let people know that the existing agenda committee is not quite done. The agenda committee, the existing agenda committee and the incoming agenda committee work together to prepare the agenda for the May meeting.
Got it. I'm there. I know David will be too. All right, that brings us to announcements. Mandolin, do you want to say anything about OPRF's Cortlandt Creek daylighting project? Mike has described it, but
yes, just that the Friends of Cortlandt Creek group is uplifted through this excitement of that project being fully funded and is hosting an event on Earth Day, April 23rd in the morning. I know it's competition between this group, but that group is excited and just highlighting, the work of what an Adopt a Spot group does and then forms into that friends group. So they're very excited to welcome this project. Jen Stern, who you heard from earlier, is project managing that. So that's all.
Great. Katie, you put something in chat that you want us to take a look at?
I did. So Rotary Nature Center Friends is hosting online free talks about Lake Merritt and natural history and community. And our next one is going to be on April 1st, featuring Hillary Powers with her just amazing knowledge of birds. Is going to take us on another virtual bird walk. We also do in-person Adopt a Spot cleanups, and we do that every third Saturday. And we will also be doing Adopt a Spot cleanups and planting marsh plants, etc. on Earth Day at the Rotary Nature Center grounds and at the Sail Boathouse Marsh.
Great, Katie. I'll call on myself next for the Lake Merritt Weed Warriors. Our next work day is this Saturday. We routinely work the last Saturday of the month, and we will be particularly weeding where we replanted one of the landscape beds, four actually of the landscape beds along Lakeshore, which were planted about 15 years ago and pretty tired. A lot of those plants have given up the ghost. So we've replanted those. Now it's time to do a little weeding. So that's, and we'll finish up the work of the rose gardens at the pergola. Are there any other announcements? Anybody want to make an announcement? Okay, well, we're at the point of the meeting where we should discuss, make sure we get the suggestions for the next meeting. Are there suggestions people would like to make for what they want to see in addition to wish list clarification and
Christine Reed report
on
Estuary
park plan, yeah.
And also, Adrian, you're going to do more on the website at the next meeting, right?
Sure.
We'd like a status of on the the walking paths.
From Craig.
Yes, from Craig.
Craig, status. And David, do you have something you want to suggest?
Yes, related to the the channel walkway along 10th Avenue, the area where the new black fence has gone in. I'm concerned, I guess, that, so we have that estuary restoral area. We have the gate that we invested the money in. And then there's the actual path itself. And then there's some land that has like a little park area on it and some grassy area where the homeless people used to be. And then there's the Oakland Auditorium. And I understand that the developer, Orton Development Company, plans to open up the outside area of the Oakland Auditorium in its renovation project the summer of 2023. What I don't understand is how that land is being integrated and how whatever Orton is doing there, it works with that. And I'd like to ask the coalition to ask Orton to come to meet with us and describe what it is they're thinking of doing exactly there, so we can see how it doesn't impact us negatively and how it maybe could positively integrate with what we've got going on there.
Great, thank you, David. Any other suggestions? Well, hearing none, I think we have come to the end of tonight's agenda. I want to thank all of, yes, David, Mike, are you raising your hand? No, your fingers are just waving in the air.
I was just saying thank you.
Thank you
Namaste.
all for being here, and good to see you all. Be well, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you in 2 months.
Thank you, Jenny.
Good night.
Thanks all the
Good
folks in the
night.
city. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. See you at the lake.
Thanks, everyone.